Welcome to the internet equivalent of wandering through a dusty museum at night, folks. A place where the only other patrons are probably moths and the occasional sentient cobweb. Today, we're not just looking at history, we're performing a goddamn exorcism on it. Because let's be honest, sometimes the past is less those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it, and more those who do remember the past spend a lot of time screaming, "Oh God, not this shit again." From pandemics to propaganda and holidays with origins more sinister than a clown holding a chainsaw, let's dive into the shadows of history. We're going to unearth the unsettling parallels between events of the past and our modern world. Buckle up, because this isn't your grandma's history lesson, unless your grandma was really into conspiracy theories, in which case, she might have already sent you this link.
The Black Death. A delightful medieval cocktail of bubonic, pneumonic and septicemic plague that between 1346 and 1353 managed to achieve what even Genghis Khan couldn't, killing an estimated 30 to 60% of Europe's population. Now I know what you're thinking, John, this sounds eerily familiar. And you'd be right, just swap out the plague doctors with hazmat suits and the fear of divine retribution with the fear of doom scrolling, and boom, you've got yourself 2020. The Black Death, much like our recent pandemic friend, showed us that no matter how advanced we think we are, Mother Nature can always throw a biological curveball our way. It also highlighted humanity's incredible capacity for both compassion and, let's be honest, utter batshit insanity. We saw communities coming together to help the sick, and then we saw those same communities welding doors shut to trap them inside. Look, I'm not saying that pandemics are history's way of teaching us to wash our hands, but maybe, just maybe, they're a stark reminder that we're all in this together, sharing one giant, slightly moist planet. So be kind, wear a mask when appropriate, and for the love of all that is holy, stop hoarding toilet paper.
Let's talk about witch hunts, shall we? No, not the Salem kind, though those were certainly a hoot. I'm talking about the modern-day witch hunts that take place in the digital town square we call social media. Back in the day, all it took was a bad harvest, a jealous neighbor, or, owning a black cat to get you accused of witchcraft. Today, one ill-advised tweet about pineapple on pizza is all it takes to unleash the hounds of internet fury. We've replaced pitchforks and torches with angry emojis and hashtags, but the basic formula remains the same. Find a scapegoat, demonize them, and then unleash the full force of public outrage. It's mob mentality with a 21st century twist, and frankly, it's exhausting. Remember, folks, just because someone has a different opinion than you doesn't make them the devil incarnate. Unless, of course, they think Die Hard is a bad Christmas movie. In that case, burn it all down.
Let's take a stroll down memory lane, shall we? Back to the good old days of the Spanish Inquisition, where torture wasn't just a hobby, it was practically an art form. They had more ways to make you scream than a Metallica concert, all in the name of religious purity, of course. From the rack, to the thumbscrews, to the ever-popular waterboarding. Yes, that's right, waterboarding is about as original as a Nickelback guitar riff. The Inquisition was nothing short of a human rights horror show. Now, before you get all smug and think, well, at least we're more civilized now, let's talk about Guantanamo Bay, shall we? Or extraordinary rendition. Turns out our methods may have gotten more sophisticated, but our capacity for cruelty? Yeah, that's still alive and kicking. We may not use thumbscrews anymore, but we've got sleep deprivation, stress positions, and good old-fashioned psychological manipulation. Look, I'm not saying we should be giving out participation trophies to war criminals.
Nah, history's got a remix playlist going. Alright folks, a dumpster fire that is human history. You know how people say, history repeats itself? Well, they're right, but it's not a simple repeat. It's more like history heard a catchy beat and decided to drop a remix album. Same themes, new packaging, and a whole lot of bass. We like to think we're so advanced, so enlightened. We've got smartphones, self-driving cars, and enough streaming services to melt your brain. But beneath that shiny veneer, we're still dealing with the same old crap pandemics, social hysteria, political corruption, the list goes on. And trust me, it's a long list. So tonight we're going on a delightful little journey through history's greatest hits, comparing them to the remixes playing out in our modern world. Think of it as a cautionary tale, a reminder that humanity never really learns its lesson. But hey, at least the memes are better now, right? let's get started, shall we? The Black Death Patient Zero would like a word, and a mask. Ah, the Black Death. Good times, good times. Nothing screams fun historical event like a pandemic that wipes out a third of Europe's population. Back then, they blamed bad air, angry gods, you name it. Now we've got science on our side, but somehow people are still hesitant to wear a mask on a plane. It's like humanity learned absolutely nothing from those flea-ridden rats. We've got vaccines, antivirals, and yet, here we are, still battling misinformation and conspiracy theories faster than we can say social distancing. Seriously, some folks would rather trust a Facebook post from their aunt's hairdresser than actual medical professionals. The Black Death was a brutal teacher, but apparently some people need a refresher course. Maybe we should start handing out history books with every vaccine booster shot. It's enough to make you want to self-isolate in a medieval castle, isn't it? Witch hunts and cancel culture, from pyres to pile-ons. Remember those awesome witch hunts? You know, back when accusing your neighbor of witchcraft was a perfectly acceptable way to settle a property dispute? Good times. Well, guess what? The spirit of Salem is alive and well, my friends, and it's living on Twitter. Instead of dunking stools, we have hashtag campaigns. Instead of burning at the stake, it's getting canceled online.
Now don't get me wrong, holding people accountable for their actions is important. But have we reached a point where a single misstep can ruin someone's life before they can even say due process?
It's like we've traded one form of mob mentality for another, and the internet, with its lightning-fast judgments and complete lack of nuance, is the perfect breeding ground for this kind of digital witch hunt. The Spanish Inquisition and modern torture, same cruelty, different branding. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. Except maybe we should. Because while those fancy hats and thumbscrews might seem like relics of the past, torture? Oh honey, torture is alive and well. It's just gotten a PR makeover. We've traded the rack for waterboarding, the auto-da-fe for solitary confinement. We've slapped a fresh coat of paint on it, called it enhanced interrogation, and pretended it's somehow more civilized. Spoiler alert, it's not.
The methods may have evolved, but the underlying cruelty, the disregard for human dignity, that's a timeless classic.
Section 5. Propaganda, then and now from Goebbels to your newsfeed. Remember those good old days when propaganda was just poorly designed posters and a guy with a funny mustache shouting on the radio?
Now it's all sleek social media campaigns and targeted ads designed to exploit your deepest fears and insecurities. Joseph Goebbels, the OG of spin, would be so proud.
We've become masters at manipulating information, at bending the truth until it snaps in two. And the worst part? We're often complicit in our own manipulation.
We scroll through our feeds, consuming carefully curated content that confirms our existing biases, all while congratulating ourselves on being well-informed.
The truth is out there, folks, but it's buried under a mountain of misinformation, clickbait, and those weird sponsored posts for products you didn't know existed but now desperately need.
Let's be honest, folks. Most holidays are just ancient pagan rituals we've dressed up in glitter and forced to sell greeting cards. Section 6. Halloween, Christmas, Easter. Turns out your favorite holidays have a body count. Halloween started with the Celts, who believed the dead roamed the earth.
And trust me, those rituals, they weren't pretty.
And Easter, don't even get me started on the whole fertility goddess and human sacrifice thing. Christmas, borrowed from the Roman festival of Saturnalia, known for its, shall we say, spirited celebrations.
So, the next time you're carving a pumpkin, decorating a tree, or forcing your kids to hunt for plastic eggs, take a moment to remember the dark and bloody history behind these seemingly innocent celebrations.
You know, just to add a little spice to the festivities.
Section 7. From Rome's ruins to modern political scandals, plus ka change, plus qui est la même chose. Ah, ancient Rome, known for its gladiators, its emperors, and its truly epic levels of political corruption.
It's almost comforting to know that some things never change, isn't it? From rigged elections to shady backroom deals, from emperors with more scandals than Twitter followers, to senators who could give a master class in grifting, ancient Rome was basically a reality show waiting to happen.
And you know what? So is modern politics. We've got lobbyists whispering in ears, campaign finance laws that resemble a Jackson Pollock painting, and politicians who seem more interested in clinging to power than actually, governing.
It's enough to make you long for the days of bread and circuses. At least then, the entertainment was honest about its absurdity. Section 8. Wrapping up this carnival of carnage lessons from history's basement. Well, folks, there you have it. A whirlwind tour of humanity's greatest hits, from pandemics to propaganda, from witch hunts to, well, let's just call them holiday traditions. It's not a pretty picture, is it? But here's the thing, recognizing these echoes of the past isn't about wallowing in despair. It's about arming ourselves with knowledge, with the understanding that we've been down these roads before, and we've got the potholes to prove it. So, the next time you see a headline that feels eerily familiar, remember this. History may not repeat itself verbatim, but it sure as hell knows how to remix a classic. And it's up to us to make sure the sequel is better than the original.